All right. Welcome, everyone, to the April zoning board hearing. Anybody here that is with is here for Conservation Commission, they're upstairs in room 14. Thank God you didn't have to sit through our hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Nice seeing you. Okay. We have a approval and need approval for the minutes. Do I
I'll
have
make a motion.
By Mary, second? No second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Brian Falk, just to a note that you have in front of you, Brian has provided the board and some updated Chapter 40B handbook that has been modified since going back to 1998. Please take a look at these. These are the handbooks that we will be using for references. There have been changes from 1998 concerning the Chapter 40B housing complex and the codes. So certain revisions have changed. Everybody's got a packet to be putting in their book, and I want to thank Brian for
Yeah, thank you.
getting this update to us and to the board so that we can use it for reference going forward. With that, we're at 7:10. We have our first hearing as a special permit for Ed Whitaker. Here? Okay. On the application of Ed Whitaker for 85 South Bow Street and pursuant to section 2.3 and other provisions of the bylaw in relation to a 28,000 plus or minus square foot parcel of land located on the southeasterly side of South Bow Street and Central Street, known and numbered as 85. The special permit is sought to permit a portion of the site to be utilized for used car sales, auto repairs, in addition to otherwise permitted on the premises. Concerning the application, the property is in the IB zone, and commercial uses do surround the property. The proposed use was indicated will have the required parking, and the building will have ADA access. All parking areas will have safe traffic flow and the required parking dimensions. As far as the site in general, the site is located in the IB district, for which purposes proposed uses are allowed and therefore would not cause harm or hazard to the neighborhood. This did go in front of the planning board on the 4/18 meeting. Planning board voted favorable. Town plan, a letter from Larry Duncan indicated that this will be in addition to the used car sales that were already granted, general office use, solar energy company, and a 3,500 square foot warehouse space for cutting granite to occupy the site. Auto repair uses are allowed by special permit in the IA zone. Proposed auto repair business appears to be provable generally as it's to use. The specific arrangement of all the off-street parking areas and number of vehicles to be displayed for sale will be determined by the planning board during the required site plan review subsequent to the ZBA issuance of a special permit. Therefore, they did recommend a favorable report be sent off to this board. With that, you have the floor, Mr. Poxon.
Thank you, Robert Fox and Gary Halnon Engineering, representing Ed Whitaker. This is the site that used to be J-Corps at the corner of Central Street and South Bow Street. The applicant has previously received a special permit to allow for the current uses, which are office, warehouse, and used auto sale. And what he's seeking to do is take a portion of the area that was originally designated to be warehouse and use that for repair of the vehicles that he's basically, when you get these used cars, there's some repair work that has to be done. He has a mechanic that's, there to do that, and he figures if he might as well open it up for auto repair since the facility's gonna be set up that way. So he's just seeking to amend the special permit to allow for the auto repair in addition to what he's already got approval for.
Okay. Charlie, I'll start down on your end.
No, I don't have any questions right now.
Ryan?
The repairs are all gonna be inside the
Inside.
the building.
That's correct.
And just refresh my memory, how many used cars did we approve, do you remember? I know it was only a couple months ago.
12.
12? And so this is for the repair of the used cars, it's not for customers?
Well, no, this is also, in other words, this is on top of being able to repair the, other vehicles other than just the used cars, because, he basically has a mechanic that's there to be able to maintain these cars. People who buy them come back and repair it, so the facility's gonna be there, he wants to be able to utilize it, more economically. If he's gotta pay a guy to be on site, he'd like to be able to do repairs all the time.
Okay, so the plan is to repair the cars that are coming in for sale, but also.
Also, other cars,
Customers.
that's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Mark?
How many, say 24 people come in for repairs, you're gonna have appointment only, or you're gonna have cars all over the place? Additional
Well-
repairs, I'm talking, not regarding what you already have.
Yeah, I think the idea is to keep everything off in the back there. I'm not sure there'll be that level of commerce. And I guess if there were, yeah, there would need to be some type of,
Appointment.
organization in
You
that
wouldn't have
respect.
like a dozen cars pending repairs, you'd have them coming in A, B, C, D.
Yeah, yeah,
There'd be some control over the.
Right, yeah.
cars. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Has any of the conditions been met when we issued the license for the cars?
All
Any
the-
of the conditions, the work that was needed to be done for the cars have been done?
All the work that was required under the site plan has been,
Site plan, I'm talking about,
well, yeah, the paving, which is all part of,
we had a decision, we gave decisions in our last hearing. Were those handled?
I'm not sure what you're particularly referring to.
Refer back to the decision.
We paved the back lot, we put in stormwater retention.
sidewalk has been repaired
What
along
about?
the street.
We changed out the-
Fencing up the top that was supposed to be done?
Fencing up the top, you mean
cars
along the
are.
corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the chain link has been removed and there's a decorative, fence there instead.
That's there? That's been put up?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And the entrance has been redone?
Yes.
The sliding fence gate has been completed?
That's gone, yeah, it's been, it's all been removed.
Okay.
Okay, my only concern was that the work would be done inside, there's not gonna be any other repairs outside, and,
Repairs outside, no.
and you will schedule, like, one of the other board members said that, you don't wanna have an additional 12 cars that are waiting to be repaired in addition to the ones you already have on the lot for sale, so just wanna make sure that that's,
I mean,
Sure.
Doesn't end up being like-
ultimately, if you look at it, the requirement is to have 20 parking spaces, and they have 27, so you could say that you shouldn't have any more
I
than
just wanna make sure
7
all the work is
cars.
done inside, because if you have
Yes.
that many cars, you can have
Yes.
people working outside on the cars too, and I just
won't
wanna
be.
make sure the work is done inside.
We're not gonna allow any working on cars outside.
Yeah.
Anyways, right, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Who owns the building?
I do.
You own the building, now are there other tenants in the buildings, or just,
So I have a solar company that's one of the tenants, and that's it, yeah.
so the solar company's back here?
In the offices on South Bow,
So, are you here?
and the warehouse in the back. Right.
When you were here the last time, you said there was gonna be no repairs, so you changed, something changed?
So, yeah, I mean, things evolved, the granite, the fellow that does the granite, moved out, and so the space became available.
Okay. All right. I don't have any questions right now.
John?
No. All set.
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. I'm all set. Any other comments before we close the hearing? Take it under advisement? Okay. Okay, anybody in the audience like to have anything to say concerning this application? If not, we'll close the hearing and, okay, board members, is there a motion to approve, deny with conditions? Please advise what you would like to do.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve so that we go down the standard road of all repairs are to be done inside. There'll be no parking, no repairs performed or any debris left on the exterior of the parking lot. Is that correct?
Correct.
How about days of repair? You're gonna do 7 days a week?
Operating hours?
Yeah.
Well, we restricted the booms that are going on the trucks for no
Yeah.
Sundays. And 8 o'clock start on
Yeah,
Saturday.
so what's your normal hours? Would probably be
Monday to Saturday,
Monday to Saturday.
What were the hours?
8 to 6.
8 to 6 even on Saturday?
It'd be nice to have the option.
Anybody else want to comment on that? I think you gotta bring, I think, my personal opinion is you bring Saturday up to like 4 or 5. If you feel that you need to have additional extended hours, you can always do that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, let's say Saturday, 8 to 4.
Okay. That, need a second. Need a second?
I'll second.
Second by John, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay. Have you got the file for that one? Okay. One down. Oh, you need the notes?
Oh, we didn't approve, oh,
Yeah, we
did you
did.
sign it? Oh, okay,
There you go.
yeah. I need that.
All right, this is on the variance application, 276 Purchase Street, Claro. Anybody have conflicts on any of these? If not, it will be the 5 main board members. Okay, this is on the application of, I hope I don't screw this name up, Naira Cavallo Claros, 276 Purchase Street, with a variance from dimensional provisions of section 2.4 and 2.5 of the bylaw in relation to an 19,896 square foot, more or less parcel of land located on the southwesterly side intersection of Purchase Street and North Brick Circle, which also is known and numbered as 276 Purchase Street. Variance relief is sought in order to divide the parcels into 2 parcels, 1 parcel containing existing single-family dwelling, and an additional parcel to be able for a single-family construction. Concerning the applicant's circumstances related to the conditions of the lot, the existing lot is long and narrow. The lot is usually large for the neighborhood. It has a large open yard to the right of the property. If the variance were not granted, what hardship would be caused? And the applicant states, the existing lot is a result of a merger by operation of law of 2 lots shown on lots 10 and 11 on a 1960 plan attached. The existing single-family was built on the lot 10 closer to the street with the obvious intent to preserve the adjoining lot for future development. The legal merger now prevents that development. The owner would be unable to split the lot to make use of the large oversized area of area frontage and the width of lot, causing financial hardship. The addition of a single-family home on North Brick Circle will not affect the safety, health, and pedestrian travel, and will align with the other properties on the property. There is a letter in the file that I got on April 13th. I think I'll hold that off for a minute before I read it into the file. Also, the planning board received this on 4/18, voted unfavorable. The applicant, the property's non-conforming, 19,896 square foot merged single-family lot in the RC zoning district. The existing single-family dwelling is non-conforming only as to the front yard setback. Property is essentially flat with no attributes to the land itself, creating hardship. Therefore, I recommend an unfavorable report be sent off to the zoning board of appeals. With that, Mr. Fernandez, why don't you go ahead and give us an idea?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name's John Fernandez. I'm an attorney. My office is at 12 Main Street in Milford. I'm here with Mr. and Mrs. Claro, who are the owners. We were at the planning board the other night. Mrs. Claro had to leave because the baby was getting agitated by the board, so we didn't bring the baby tonight. They are the owners of this property, and so for orientation purposes, I gave you a set of some documents. A cover plan is the one that we're seeking to get approved. Behind it, you have an original subdivision plan. You have a copy of the abutters map, the zoning map as well, and a picture that shows the aerial of it. So for orientation purposes, we come to Upper Purchase Street, 276, pretty far up, up the area to Northbridge Circle. And they are located on the southerly side of Northbridge Circle, which is a subdivision from back in the 60s, I believe. It comes in, comes down around as a horseshoe and comes back out on the other side. On the northerly side at the corner for orientation, if you might recognize or know where he lives, is Andy Starkis, who once served as chairman of this board for many, many years. He's on the other side of Northbridge Circle when the horseshoe comes out back further up on Purchase Street. And there are, I think, 14 or 15 homes up here. It was originally subdivided into lots of 10,000 square feet. And I think the key to this is not a lot that was originally designed as approximately 25,000 square feet that the petitioners seek to divide. It is two lots that existed on this subdivision, were actually purchased by Roger Robbins as separate lots. He and his wife purchased them as different times, built on the one closest to the street and always preserved the second one. They were sold as separate lots to the subsequent buyer, eventually merged into common ownership, and as they merged into common ownership, the people being unaware that when zoning increases, lots merge, they didn't separate them into separate ownership. The lots merge by operation of law in order to meet current zoning. It went through a foreclosure, came out to another buyer, of arm's length transaction, and the Claros bought it from that other buyer. That's the title history and the history of how the lot becomes to be configured like this. The deed to this property lists 2 parcels of land. It doesn't have a description that goes the entire rectangle. There are actually, both parcels are taxed separately by the town. They're not taxed as a merged lot. So the Claros have actually paid a separate bill on this particular parcel of land. I think my count, 13 of the homes that are on Northbrook Circle that you would see on the map laid out are actually on the 10,000 square foot or approximately original parcels of land as they are configured. There's one house in the back that merged a bunch of the lots along the back of the horseshoe into one long lot. I'm not really sure the reason for that, but other than that one, all of the rest of the homes are built on the original subdivision parcel. The Claros are looking to redivide these into approximately their original form. There's an effort here to make them a little more conforming to each other. There's a building envelope on here. Their intention is to build a 3-bedroom home that's consistent with the other homes in the area, move into it, and allow their father-in-law to move into this particular home, who is moving out of his home for health reasons and wants to be closer to them. And obviously, that's not a condition of a permit. We understand that. It's just an explanation of what they, in good faith, intend to do here. So that is the petition. We would be asking your consideration to allow this division so that they can go back to the original 2 lots. It is consistent with the lots in the subdivision. There has been no opposition raised, and it's my understanding that their support has been presented to you. Mr. Claro did go, at my urging, to neighbors in the neighborhood to present himself and his plan and his idea, his and his wife's idea for what they wanted to do, and to the best of our knowledge, no opposition that came forward from that.
John, I'll read this into the minutes, since it was addressed to the board, and it was came from a past member of this board. I also want to make a comment that I'm fighting on hardship on this particular situation, since it's transferred 3 times in the past 6 years. I don't see any hardship issue, so I guess I'll kind of leave it at that. It's not something that was spent down in history with other families, and so I'm struggling with the issue of, you know, indicating there's some hardship.
Well, I would just
Seems to be
indicate
a
to you.
financial situation.
It is a financial hardship, and that is something that is allowed under the law in terms of a finding by this board relative to hardship. As I say, this was purchased by the Claros, coming out of a deed that listed them as 2 separate parcels with 2 separate tax bills. And there was some belief that they would at some point in time be able to build on that separate lot. And you know, they went down to the building inspector to inquire about it and were told no, that they had merged. and
Well,
that-
they bought it this way. They bought it as it was, without a buildable lot. So they clearly knew when they bought it that it was what it was.
They actually, what I'm suggesting to you is, it may appear that way, but they did not. The deed suggested it was 2 separate lots and it was 2 separate tax
No,
bills.
it just says
But
two
it
separate
appeared as one lot, there's no question about that on the ground.
And the deed reflected just 2 different parcels, which deeds can reflect 3 different parcels, and you don't have 3 separate parcels, is what I'm saying. So let me kind of read this letter, because this was dated April 13th. It was also copied to you, John. And this came from Andy Zarkis, across the street. As Mr. Consigli and board members, as a butter who stands for the most impacted by the grant of the variance sought by the Claros, and because due to a prior teaching commitment, he wouldn't be able to be here tonight at the hearing, he wanted to share his favorable view and proposed variance. And again, he explained Northbrook Circle, small subdivision drawn out in the 70s, by the way, from a small farm on Purchase Street. It doesn't say 60s, it says 70s.
I thought the plan was in the 70s, but I'll check.
But it doesn't say 60s, it says 70s. The property, as the original farmhouse, sits directly across the street from Northbrook Circle from the applicant's property. The subdivision reduced what became my house lot to 13,000 square feet, 130 feet along North Bridge, 150 feet on Purchase Street, and created more than a dozen 10,000 square foot lots elsewhere around both sides of Northbrook Circle, each with a house on it, with the exception of 2 lots that now owned by the applicant. There's also a large lot in the back of the subdivision, most of which is on an essentially unbuildable downslope. I don't know what unbuildable downslope means. When my wife, daughter, and I moved into the house, the applicant's property was owned by Roger Robbins, the president of the Home National Bank, and his family. The house sat at the lot abutting Purchase Street. Roger told me at the time he had taken lots originally with the intention of being able to later build a second family home on the other lot. As you may be aware, I was for many years a member and chairman of the board, and have a full understanding of the considerations you must weigh in deciding whether to grant this variance. I can recall a number of similar applications coming before the board in years past to split isolated double lots and subdivisions that, like the one on Northbrook Circle, predated the zoning revisions that increased minimum lot sizes beyond those already drawn, approved, and are largely built on. Several such applications in the plains come to mind as we granted them. Our approach then was to grant such applications consistent with any reasonable about its concerns, unless there was some indication that a developer had erred in trying to check a board or unbuilt subdivision to avoid a new zoning approved by the town. Milford is not your unusual suburban town. It is and has been, at least through my 45 years living here, a rich tapestry in both its human and physical makeup. It's always struck me as not only a welcome place, but a railroad mill town that, unlike other towns, the people could not wait to escape. Held on its own with generations living only in a short distance apart. Milford history is highlighted by its ever-involving ethnic diversity and its range of housing, with families able to prove the American dream from small incomes and crowded started homes and apartments to middle incomes, and homes to match, and then sometimes even those to top-of-the-line luxury mansions, all within the town. Northbrook Circle subdivision is a piece of that mosaic. This application does not seek in any way to disrupt, to disturb, or to intent of the zoning bylaw to manage building requirements in various other areas of town. It merely eliminates an accidentally anomaly and restored the consistency of this Little Horseshoe subdivision to its original design in a way that does not harm to anyone of the neighborhood or outside of it. I hope you'll see fit to grant this necessary variance. So that was dated April 13th, and that came from Andy Zarkas. I wanted to make sure that that was read into the records. Okay, with that, why don't we continue?
Yes, and I think Mr. Starkis puts his finger appropriately on the historical way in which this board has treated these kinds of anomalies in subdivisions where, again, lots purchased separately and ultimately merged under the law have been allowed to be re-separated, where they will not create a hardship for anyone else or a detriment to anyone else in the neighborhood, which we know this will not do. It's one additional lot. It's not going to increase traffic dramatically in any particular way in this subdivision. And it is consistent with a permit that was issued by this board, I think, at the last meeting down on East Street. Similarly, where there was a lot that had merged into the other lot, and the owner sought to have it separated so that the land would be used consistently. And it doesn't derogate from the intent. It actually, the original intent of the bylaw was to allow these lots to be built upon. They were purchased in such a way as to be preserved, to be built upon, and that would be the request for allowance of the permission here to move forward with this permit, would be to allow that to occur in this particular location. So I would ask favorable consideration.
Okay, great. Charlie, I'll start down with you.
Yeah, my only feeling is, I just have a comment on it, is that I have a hard time finding issue with this because of the fact that the town, as you said, taxes both lots separately. That's happening as far as today? Okay, and then, with respect to Larry, Larry's just saying that it's hard to understand what he's saying, other than the fact that the merger occurred and that's it, unfavorable, right?
Well, yes, I think the planning board has always taken the position relative to these lots that they do not favor waiver of zoning, in fairness. But that's a typical, that's not an unusual position for planning boards to take, and the difference between the planning board and the zoning board is you are entitled to the discretion to allow it.
Thank you, Chairman, for that was just my feeling about it.
Okay, Brett?
We heard from the neighbor across the street, Mr. Starkis. Do you have feedback from the direct abutters to the property?
David, I see him on a regular basis. He's at work, otherwise he would have been here. He's in favor. And the neighbor directly across from the lot, a young couple, we briefly talked. He's not opposed to it either. And, I mean, we like the street. We walk up and down. We see all the neighbors. You know, it's a nice neighborhood. We would like to stay there, but we get along with everybody, and they're all in the same. They're happy to see us stay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mac?
Hold for a minute.
Okay. John, I'll start going to you.
I'm gonna hold for a minute also.
Patty?
No question.
Mr. Fine?
John, you're representing that they're gonna keep this in the family, that they're not gonna put it up for sale in the next 5 years?
I don't know what 5 years will bring, Mr. Pine. I know that their intention at this point in time is to do what I suggested, build a 3-bedroom here for themselves and bring the dad over to this property. I'm not sure, you know, how long that will be for dad, but that's their intention at this point in time, yes.
How long have you owned the house?
5 years?
Close 5, well, 4.5.
4.5.
5, we moved right in, right after. And Niara's father, I mean, he can speak for himself. He's 62. Had a heart attack last year. His Social Security pension is $600. They live over in 94A South Main Street by Pins. Their house is in foreclosure, so with his income, they're not going to be able to keep it. So the intentions right now is we work a little. I'm a car sales, she's a nurse, maybe we can work a little bit harder and we can try to help them out a little bit. How long can we keep helping them? Hopefully we'll keep healthy and keep working and try to help them out a little bit, because they're not going to increase their work schedule because of their age and their condition. We've been there 4.5 years, roughly.
So you had to redo the house you're living in?
Yes, within a budget, but.
No, I remember that house. That was the house that had the mold in it. The one that faces Purchase Street?
Yeah, on
They
the
had to gut
basement.
the whole thing.
On the basement.
I
yeah.
remember seeing
The
them.
bottom part of it.
Okay, so
yes.
you bought it and did that work, or you bought it afterwards?
No, we did the work ourselves.
Okay.
I pulled the permit with the town at the time.
Now, quick question, is this a 60s or a 70s subdivision?
The plan is signed in 61.
61? Is that what it was? Because I don't have that in the file.
Right here.
I gave you a copy of it.
Oh. Oh, okay. All right, so. you
And
can-
frankly, it would have, Mr. Chairman, it would have had to have been in the 60s to be
Yeah, 'cause
in
it's-
the 10,000 square foot number.
Is that town sewer up there?
Our house it is, yes, right on.
Okay, and is the one in behind, is the rest of, is the one behind you town?
I don't know that answer.
The one behind we don't know.
Yeah,
I think the rest of the street,
So you're hooked up to town sewer?
we are, yes.
And how about I thought the rest of the development is all septic?
I don't know the right answer for that.
They would bring sewer to this lot
All right.
from Purchase Street. Sewer is in Purchase Street, and they would bring it to the lot.
Quick question, I want to reach the audience. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on this? Okay, did anybody else have any other comments? No?
I'm just a little confused. You wanna split this lot, you wanna build a new house there, and you wanna sell it.
No, we moving into other new house.
yes, we're
You're
hoping
gonna
to
move into
keep.
the
For
new
us.
house.
They're gonna move into the new house
You're gonna sell the one.
and bring,
You're gonna keep two houses.
Yes.
We're hoping
So
to
you're gonna be
move,
renting one.
No, my
move
in-laws.
family into it, yes.
her family is coming up from the situation he was just
Oh, my
discussing. I wasn't gonna go
Yes.
public with the discussion.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's not very comfortable to say that all out, but.
Okay, I don't think any other members have any other questions. With that, the last word before we close the hearing, take it
I
under
do
advisement?
believe this meets the criteria, and again, it is the consistent manner in which this board has historically treated these kinds of anomalies within a subdivision where lots have merged over time. Again, not taking a large lot that was built, that was created as a large lot and separating it, but allowing the current owners of property that were once separate lots to re-separate them, and for the purpose for which the Claros intend to pursue it.
John, thank you for bringing the 60s plan in, that was helpful. Okay, with that, we'll close the hearing. Is there a motion to approve, deny, is there a motion? John?
motion to approve.
Motion by John to approve, all those in favor?
You have a second?
Oh, you seconded it?
I'll second, yeah.
Second it, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How are you?
Oh, so that was it. Congratulations,
I
good
didn't
luck.
see that,
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
A long time, John.
I know.
Okay, moving along.
Thought I was gonna be doing that all night that you're doing, but so far.
Is there a plan? Or was
They
it-
good? All done.
Page 420.
Yes.
Which one is that now? Warehouse? John, it doesn't matter if we do the variance, so we're gonna do them simultaneously anyways. You wanna do the variance first?
Mr. Chairman, as a matter of protocol, I think it's important that you open one hearing, close it, open
Absolutely.
the second hearing. So sure, we do the variance first. You might want to do the special permit first. No, you better do the variance first. I'm thinking about it, you better do the variance
I
first.
feel like I'm just talking to a wall over here. What else would you like?
Dave, just pick one, Dave, just pick one.
Just pick one.
What do you expect from an attorney?
It's your check.
If I don't change my mind, we're good anymore.
Your check. Okay. It's on the application of Claflin Street Limited Partnership, 20 Claflin Street. This is for variance from the provincial provisions of section 2.4, 2.5 zoning in relation to parcels of land located on Cena Way and Claflin Street in Milford, known and numbered as 1, 3, 5, and 7 Cena Way, and 16 and 20 Claflin Street in Milford. The relief is sought in order to permit the divisions of the entity of the lots into 2 lots with the existing nursing home, adult daycare, and to remain on 1 lot, and then with the adult daycare to expand on lot 2, and the parking and all the others to remain on lot 2, with connections among buildings in addition to the deck also shown on the plans accompanying the application.
You want to dispense with the reading
Yeah,
if
let's
it's
dispense
exactly
with the
as it
reading.
is?
Is it exactly as
changes
it's
to this?
written, John?
John?
There's no change to
All right.
Okay, we have a motion to dispense with the reading. Do I have a second?
Yes,
By
second, yeah.
Mark. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Also, this came in front of the, this planning board reviewed this on 4/18, voted favorable. Basically, the proposal amends a previous special permit for a temporary adult daycare building to become permanent. It also provides for a new combination of multiple existing parcels to become 2 new parcels, and with the adult day health building and expanding parking in the rear of the development to be one of the new parcels, and the balance of the existing facility be located on the other new parcel. The variance requested arise from the need to construct enclosed connections between the buildings that will cross proposed new internal property lines. No new building is being proposed at this point in time. The parking lot improvements to the rear of the property approved in 2015 will still be accomplished to increase the number of off-street parkings. Site plan will be required from the planning board, subject to the grant of this special permit. Therefore, they recommend a favorable recommendation. With that, I can also open up, since we have the time, I'll open up the application on the special permit. And the special permit application is relations to sections 2. The special permit is in relations to section 2.2, 2.3, and 3.1 of the zoning bylaws, with parcels of land on Cena Way and Claflin Street, and then known as 1, 3, 5, and 7 Cena Way, and also 16 and 20 Claflin Street in Milford. And their application is to utilize the property for a nursing home and adult daycare with the associated parking, and to amend the earlier special permits that allowed for the construction of an expanded adult daycare and subacute care facility with parking on the amenities of the construction of a 1-story building, and expand the daycare structure to the premises for a temporary and limited time period until the permanent structure was completed. The applicant seeks to make the adult daycare health temporary building now permanent, and to construct a deck in front of the building to establish connections among the said buildings, all of which is now shown on the plans accompanying with this application. With that, Mr. Fernandez, you can finally have the floor. Your
For the
time is
record,
limited.
yeah, for the record, my name's John Fernandez, attorney, 12 Main Street, Milford, Mass. With me is Frank Romano, who is the principal in the entities out here that own various parcels of land that have been purchased over a period of time to create the opportunity that now exists. He is the principal in the entities, although there may be others involved in certain of the entities. So, for orientation purposes, we are at the Blair House. The original nursing home is this facility right here. It's off of Claflin Street, off of South Bow, and the Romano family has owned this in one way or another for many, many years. And as you know, because we've been before the board a number of times over the years, Mr. Romano, who owns this and several other facilities across eastern Massachusetts, and is very active in the elder care advocacy world, has a vision for this area, which he's been fulfilling over time, to bring the entire continuum of elder care to Milford at this location. So what started as an older nursing home, one which my uncle, coming home from World War II, spent the majority of his life at, either there or the VA hospital, is now today a nursing home, a facility that offers home health care services. It's a facility that offers adult day services, and you know that across the street, he recently invested a significant amount of money to construct an assisted living facility, and has vision yet still, if he can acquire a bit more of the land, to bring independent living, so that the entire spectrum elder care services from home health care all the way through nursing home care would be available in one location, which, in terms of transitioning for elders, is an extremely important situation. So it's a significant investment that Mr. Romano and his family and his associates have made into this area out here. And we've been before you a few times as he's acquired additional parcels of land along this stretch of what is now Cena Hella Way to be able to build the assisted living and fulfill his vision of expansion, such that he's purchased 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate parcels to get to the point of being with you today beyond the original parcels here of the nursing home. As he's acquired these, he's been before you, we've been before you for a special permit expansion. Why are we here for expansion? Because this is in the RA zone, and the nursing home is allowed, but we need special permit authority to be able to move forward and expand the actually, the continuum of care are allowed here, but we need special permit authority to be able to continue to expand it. And so we came before you 2 years ago with a plan to put a nursing home and adult day health expansion in this area over here. He was able to, Romanos were able to move forward with the adult day health prior to the nursing expansion. And so, rather than delay the adult day health expansion, they went ahead and came back to you seeking a year ago a permit to just build this building here. And as you may remember, that was creatively done by taking the portables that were decommissioned up at Woodland, 2 of the portables, transporting them through town and combining them here. And he wanted to do this, the petition to you was to do this as a temporary facility until he got approval to do the rest of all this work. As is Mr. Romano's want, temporary didn't really make sense to him. He went in with the kind of construction and work on this facility that really it's become a permanent facility. And what he's asking you to do tonight by way of the special permit is allow this facility to become permanent and remove the temporary allowance of it. He's abandoning the original 2-year-ago plan as to how he would construct the nursing home expansion as well, and we'll be back with something once that is ready to come back to you. But for the time being, he would like to leave that there. So our special permit seeks, if I switch over to now the plan before you, to allow this to remain permanent and to allow connectors to bring this building together, which are not yet constructed, and we can't construct those the way we want to because we have 0 lot line considerations, thus the variance that's before you. But to allow these to be connected, this building, these 2 buildings to be connected, because there's easy transitioning within the buildings for the services which exist inside of this building as well, some adult day health services. So we go from this to this, and the variance seeks to allow 0 lot line here, so these connections can happen, because what we're asking, or what we're going to do, and in my discussions with town council, he would agree, we have as a matter of right, the ability to collect these 5 lots into a single lot, creating 2 lots out here, one with the original nursing home facility and buildings, and one that will have this, any expansion, and in here is all parking and drainage structures that service it all, and it all gets done by cross leasing. Why? The reason for this is that this nursing home is financed under a HUD loan, which is untouchable in terms of trying to modify it to bring new land in or take land out. We just can't do that, and it would be irresponsible from a fiduciary perspective to try and go out and refinance that HUD loan. It just would be an enormous undertaking. So what we want to do is leave the integrity of that original HUD loan parcel alone, create this so that the Romanos can go in, refinance the work that they've done here and recoup the capital that they've invested here, and be in a position to then modify that to get additional financing to complete the nursing home expansion out here and finish any of the structural work they need to do. So in order to do that, we will be creating, either by 81X or 81P, these 2 lots, and as a consequence, any connector here has a 0 lot line, so we need your permission for the variance to allow that connector to exist here and here. And he also has a deck up here, setback 25, that's 14 feet off. But if you remember, that 14 feet doesn't go directly to the road. He had to build a significant wall out here to support the front of that, so that sort of runs right out and runs down. So it doesn't, that deck is located very high above street level, such that it's not at all going to be in any way offensive to anybody in the neighborhood. In fact, he wants to put the deck, some posting, and a roof over it so that people can enjoy that area out on that side. So, recap, why are we here? Permission to make this, change this from temporary to permanent, 1, by way of the special permit. 2, allow the connectors to be built, because these are going to be combined into separate lots, such that we have 0 lot line. And 3, get a variance up here for the deck that's at the front of this building on Cena Hill Way.
Okay. With that, Charlie, go ahead. I understand it.
Oh, yeah, this is good.
I hope the pictures were more,
No,
were easier to understand than the words that were written into the application.
So the ultimate long-term strategy here is, for elders, is that eventually they start off with assisted living, and then they sometimes have to go from assisted living into nursing care. Also, you have daycare centers that during the day they can come, and you also have an independent facility for them to live at if they so desire.
That's the ultimate, would be the independent, but don't leave out the home health care, which they also
That's
have
right, too.
services of, where they send people and arrange to send people into the home. The idea here, you know, is, look, when my parents needed help, you had a choice of staying home or you went to a nursing home. Today, the continuum of care allows people both the dignity to remain in their home and in a position where the services that they receive are consistent with the condition, the medical condition they may be experiencing, and their ability to live independently or with assistance. So, and it's just so much cheaper to work your way through the continuum of care. You can stretch resources much further by using home health care, the daycare, so that, you know, mom and dad are safe when you're out working, but home with you at night. The independent living, when that's more preferable to the assisted living, when they need some minor assistance with meds and food and the rest, to the nursing home care.
And the reason we're going through this, I would assume, is that as these things come into vogue, some of these services in the last 10 years, that's why you've been doing it piecemeal to, I would assume, to get them all included in one facility, because it's very complicated, and it seems like an over a long time, but.
Well, I think if Mr. Romano had his way, he'd do it all in a microsecond, but the biggest impediment out here has really been assembling the parcels of land.
If I may speak, Frank Romano, just to acquire some of the parcels took me 20 years.
Wow.
20 years to put all those parcels together.
Okay. Yeah.
And actually, the chairman questioned me last time why it took me so long to get the last parcel, and I told him I had been negotiating very hard. And actually, because we bought that parcel after you gave us approval, and the demand for adult daycare has grown dramatically because it's so more cost-effective than a nursing home, and it holds off admission to skilled nursing and the research by at least 12 months. So it made sense to do it. Then we ran into on the site the wonderful Milford blue granite. And that hill up there was solid granite. The original proposal we gave you was to take it all out. And the cost of that site work just became, you know, way beyond our budget. So our hope is to build a senior community, as John said, so you can start at any part of it, work your way up, down, and many of our people in our skilled nursing home, every single month, last month we sent 30 people, went home. So we have a lot of people coming and going.
For the rehab services.
Right, through rehab home, and some then will go to assisted living, some will discharge and go to adult daycare.
Right. But the
So
trauma is lessened because they're still in the same facility.
That's exactly, and it's easier for the families to make a decision, because most daughters and their husbands and sons and their wives are working. And if they're happy where they are, and they can make a smooth transition for the family, which is always a difficult decision. It isn't easy to move mom and dad away from the home they've spent their whole life in and raise their children in. That's a traumatic experience for everyone in the family. So not having to do that every year or so, because now mom has to leave adult daycare and go to the nursing home, has to leave assisted living, has to leave home care and come to the nursing home. This makes it, we hope, a lot easier for that transition.
Brian?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Mark?
Senior Disney World.
What did you say?
Senior Disney World.
You belong in a senior Disney World.
I don't have any questions. I think it's great what you're doing.
Mary, you have anything?
No, I'm all set. I think it's great.
I'm all set.
John? I just have a quick question, and it's a question that hopefully you don't need to come back here. Those connectors are pretty concrete, you don't need to move them.
That's correct.
You're not gonna, so
But
you're pretty sure that those connectors are exactly where you want them?
we went to great length on that.
All right. Anybody in the audience want to hear on this application? If not, we'll close both hearings and take them under advisement. You have your last word, by the way, which I think you're open.
I was told by the engineer I shouldn't say any last words.
Okay, good.
Okay, yeah, they'll worry about it. Okay, the hearing's closed. Do I have a motion, yes
I'll
or
make a
no?
motion.
What's the pleasure? Motion by Mary,
Second.
second by who? None? All those in favor? As
Aye.
submitted? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, good luck. Sign that plan.
I just went through this with my brother.
Both.
City.
Signing, one was for the connector, the other one was for...
Me and him won't make it there. We're not gonna make it. I know I won't make it. Are you kidding me?
Do I have the sheets for that, Cal? I do, right? Okay, so I have them both? Actually, I only need
I
one.
just did
I did one for both, okay.
Yeah, and I just put SPN on the top.
This one
We're
here.
gonna do the same for this one.
Just want to make sure that the... All right. Onward. This looks like the same. We're going to be doing a double here. Okay. Welcome, John. This is on the application of Natural Remedies, Inc., 40 South Mill Street, Hopkinton, for variance from the provisions of Section 2.3 of the bylaw in relation to requirement for setback of medical marijuana treatment center. Abutting land, the facilities with medical marijuana treatment centers proposed to be established within the property of the John and Adele Molinari trustees located 91 Medway Road and shown on Assessors Map 43 and Lot 5A. Since the timing is here. In addition to that, there's also an application from the same applicant pursuant to sections 2.2 and 2.3 of the bylaw to establish a medical marijuana treatment center on the property by the same trustees at 91 Medway Road and shown on the same Assessors Map 43 and Lot 5A in accordance with the plans filed with the application. We'll handle the variance first, I would assume.
Sir.
Okay. On the application. I don't even have it. Where is the application? Dispense with that. We motion to dispense,
Yeah, you're gonna
yeah,
read
both of
these?
them, cut them both. I'll read
Okay,
that.
yeah, I'll make a motion to dispense with the reading. Half
Reading.
listening.
We have a
I'll make-
motion to dispense with the
reading.
reading
It's
as long as
exactly
it
as
is-
presented. Attorney Fernandez?
It is.
Okay.
With that, we'll have a motion to dispense with the meeting. All those in favor?
And we have a second on the motion to dispense with the reading?
Good, that's what I'm looking for, a second. Have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Also, I want to read into the record while I have it in front of me. I have a letter here dated April 6th from Mr. Lawrence Benetti, 11 Rogers Street, Zoning Board of Appeals, attention David Consigli, Chairman, unable to make the meeting of the board on the 20th in regards to the application of natural remedies at 40 South Mill Street in Hopkinton. As in a butter of Fairview Avenue to the property in question, I am opposed to the use of Miracle Water Treatment Center in that location. I've just read that into the record so that it's in there. As far as the, looking for the letter from town planner, it's not in here.
Oh, it might be in the other folder.
It's because we had both of them. I don't want to mix up. All right, the planning board did review this on 4/18. They indicated a favorable recommendation. Town planner Larry Duncan indicated that the application requests a ZBA variance and special permit approvals for the establishment of a Miracle Water Treatment Facility on a portion of the subject premises. The proposal is to occupy approximately 4,400 square feet of existing space at the west end of the south building within the Coles Plaza. MMTCs are allowed in the IB zoning district by special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The proposed MMTC will be a dispensary only with no marijuana cultivation on site. The applicant is also seeking variance from the 200-foot separation requirements from the residential zones and the dwelling units. The provisions of the MTCs is provided for separation requirement in footnote 23 of section 2.3 of the zoning regulations. And that zoning section 2.3 indicates no medical marijuana treatment center will be located within 200 feet of a residential zone, dwelling unit, school, place of worship, church, park, playground, or youth center. Measurements to be determined, the 200-foot separation shall be taken from the property lines where any portion of the lot is within the required separation. The entire lot shall be considered to be within the required separation. The change of use site plan would be required from the planning board subsequent to a grant if this variance or special permit has been granted by the ZBA. Given the size, the 14-acre parcel and configuration of the overall plaza, I recommend a favorable report be sent off to the zoning board. With that in your package, there is a pamphlet, I believe. Did members get copies of these, Kelly, do you know?
Yeah.
Okay, and as we review these, John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name's John Fernandez. I'm an attorney here in Milford. My office is at 12 Main Street. I'm here representing Natural Remedies, Inc. With me is Jeff Barton, who is the principal, and we also have representatives from Forefront, which is the national group that Jeff and Natural Remedies has partnered up with to operate this facility, as well as representatives from Windmill, which is the security agency that is utilized for purposes of assuring that the security at this particular location is as strong as it can be and to the state-of-the-art for nationwide work on this. So for orientation purposes, for anybody who might be watching, we are at the Coles Plaza on Route 109. It is, as Larry mentioned, a 14-acre parcel of land. There's another plaza across the street, 495 down the way. To the left of the plaza here is the Molinari. There's a home over here, and there's the contractor's area back here. Across the street, there's the old Home National building. There's the cemetery across the street. To a little bit to the left, and I gave you the zoning map so you can follow it around. There is the old Kids and Company building, which is we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we get to Messina and a few homes on the street, and that circles sort of the property. Fairview, by the way, where Mr. Benetti is quite distant over here, but within enough of a distance to catch some properties at the end in the abutter list. So what are we proposing to do here? This is the IB zone, and when medical marijuana facilities were determined to be allowed in Massachusetts, in Milford, after being allowed in Massachusetts, and Milford put a bylaw in place, we simply allowed the use by special permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and in the zone IB. This plaza is in the IB zone. It gets to be RB across the street. It's a mix of uses and zones around here. As you know, down on the corner, there's the McDonald's and the Burger King. So it's quite an eclectic mix of uses out here. But the plaza is a typical retail plaza. And what we would suggest to you is that the medical marijuana dispensary is in fact a typical retail dispensary. Be clear here, there is no intention to cultivate on site. You had a petition before you previously, the first one that was done here in Milford, which was a combination of cultivation and a dispensary. That facility recently went before the Board of Selectmen, indicated they were not going to dispense in Milford. They have licenses elsewhere. They're limited into the number of licenses, as to the number of licenses they can operate. They've chosen other communities. They're not going to operate the one in Milford, it would appear. And so that will create a gap in availability of access to the resources between, let's say, Framingham and Worcester. And so what I would suggest to you is Milford has indicated its willingness to have medical marijuana facilities located in Milford. It's consistent with the bylaw to have it located in an IB zone. And I would suggest to you, if you consider this kind of a use, something akin to a pharmacy, being located in a plaza makes perfect sense as to where you would put it, and thus they come here. Now, the good thing about this petition in terms of our bylaw is that the location they will be at with this is down to the back of the plaza, next to Kohl's. And if you orient yourself there, there's a long-standing laundromat that's immediately next to Kohl's, and then there was, I think, a dry cleaner and a clothing store that sold dance-related clothing materials, both of which are vacant now. It is the intention, and it's approximately, I think, 4,000 square feet? 4,400 square feet. They would combine those two units into a single unit and would operate out of that location. I think we were talking the hours being something like 10 to 7 as hours of operation, employing some 5 to 7 people. And they would operate here, and they would be back before the planning board for site planning purposes relative to parking and the rest, but it's not anticipated from talking with engineers that we have any problem with that in terms of the use. And you have a letter that was submitted to you by the chief, I believe, and if you don't, I have copies of it, indicating he has met with the security folks, and there is a floor plan which we request are not presenting tonight because it is not our intention to disclose to the world what the floor plan is going to be and what the security measures are going to be. But what I will say to you, and I think the chief represents, and he has told me in conversation, because it was my position, we got to make sure the chief is going to be satisfied with how you are going to approach this. He met with representatives of the security team and was quite impressed with their backgrounds, with their knowledge, with their experience, and, quote, said essentially to me, these guys get it. They know how to make sure nobody's going to breach the walls, nobody's going to breach the ceiling, that you have redundancies inside the building, the cameras are going to be where they're going to be, the alarms are going to be where they're going to be, and this is in terms of the redundancies of traps that you can't get from the front door to the product just by an immediate walk-in, because there are blocks along the way, doors along the way that are secure, that you can't get through without the other one closing behind you, kind of thing, that this security is going to be top shelf and as good as anything that would exist in Massachusetts or anywhere else. And that is still, obviously, he will review and approve any final plans in that regard. And so the intention is simply to run that facility out of that location. It's an experienced team of people. I'd like Jeff to perhaps spend a few minutes talking about his background, as well as then introduce people from Forefront and from the security team to be able to give you some background.
Thanks, John. As John said, my name is Jeff Barton. I'm founding and own Waterfresh Farm in Hopkinton, which you all may or may not have been to know that. So this is completely separate from Waterfresh Farm. But I bring it up because in a family-run business between myself and my business partner, for 20 years we've been growing hydroponic produce there. We built the post and beam barn and opened up the market 5.5 years ago. Because of our hydroponic growing experience, after the medical bill was passed, we had a lot of people coming through the doors wanting to partner with us. It was in almost every instance, it was, no, thank you. Timing wasn't right, the people weren't right, how we want to operate a business and the kind of business we want to operate, it didn't make sense. Then about, gosh, it's been a long time, 2+ years ago, we were introduced to the folks from Forefront, and they run the business in a very open and transparent way like we do. We each thought about it for several months, and then we did decide to partner with them. What we bring is, as I said, 20 years plus now of hydroponic growing, so we know how to grow. We've operated a specialty retail market, so we know that business, so we have direct operating experience in that. What we needed to do is augment our team, and I should, before I move on to them, I do want to, the executive team, in addition to myself, Phil Tadaro is COO, Phil's on the road, so he couldn't be here, but I did ask Bob Mahoney to join us. Bob is the CFO. Bob has spent his career at PricewaterhouseCoopers, specifically in the healthcare practice, so very specific knowledge on that. And in many cases, held temporary financial executive responsibility at nonprofit hospitals. So he has direct experience in a nonprofit healthcare arena, and he brings the financial controls and just the auditing and operating controls into the business. Then what we needed to do is just really augment our experience, and with what Forefront brings, first of all, is the medical marijuana industry experience. Literally wrote the book on operating a best practices dispensary. Since they are here, I'd ask Andrew if you could just take a minute to introduce Forefront, because I think it's important they understand the partnership.
Sure. I'm Andrew Toot, and this is my colleague Sam Tracy from Forefront. Forefront started as a consultancy a little over 7 years ago with the sole premise of professionalizing this industry. States started legalizing this across the country, and it was Forefront's mission to demonstrate that this could be done in an incredibly professional way. And so the origins of our company were the dispensaries in Northern California, where we brought in folks to document best practices for how you do this professionally. How do you hire? How do you set up a storefront? How do you move the product? How do you hire? How do you move customers through? How do you treat customers? So we have been partnered with clients across the country, over 50 license holders, and Sam has worked intimately with them as well. But we've been partnered with Jeff and the folks at Natural Remedies every step of the way.
And if I may, I'm Sam Tracy. As Andrew said, I work with Forefront, and as he said, we've worked with over 50 license holders across the country. That's in 6 states plus DC. So we've been doing this for a long time, and we bring a lot of experience to the table. We are really excited about this group, and although we do work nationally, we're based in Boston. I'm a Medford resident myself. Andrew's from Concord, and so we are very local and excited to be doing this here in Massachusetts in particular.
I also did want to introduce John Penders. John is the security partner, so that's where we round out our team. Security is obviously a really important piece of this. And so Forefront introduced us to what they felt was the best. And so we asked, and Windmill did come on board. And John, maybe just take a minute just to explain who you guys are and what you bring to the table.
Sure. Thanks, John Penders, Windmill Group, and we're a Washington, D.C.-based security consultancy. Our business has been providing security consulting to state, local, and federal government for a number of years, and we've been working here in Massachusetts since 2013 in the medical marijuana industry. And so we've worked with current license holders who are open to bring a security approach that brings best practices from the Defense Department, Homeland Security, and other entities into securing RMDs here in Massachusetts. And we bring a multi-phase approach. We conduct risk assessments. We work with local law enforcement. We design customized security plans for the operation. We design the security architecture and system that goes into place. we're not a security system vendor, we don't put the alarm systems in, but what we do is we put together an RFP and a package and a detailed specification for how that should be installed and operated in the location. And we bring all that together and work in collaboration closely with the client and with the community to make sure that we obviously meet and exceed the standards for Massachusetts CMR requirements for RMDs, and that we make sure that all the required and necessary elements of risk management and security planning are brought into place for an RMD in any community.
Great, thank you.
John was the one that met with the chief.
So Jeff, you're gonna be growing in Hopkinton, is that what?
No, we are growing, well, hope to be growing in Lakeville is where we would do it. Waterfresh Farm is still an ongoing concern and will be, as
So
it is
why
now.
was that brought up? What, I thought that you basically were gonna be, that was gonna be a grow area.
No, I brought up Waterfresh Farm because I think it's important to understand where we come from. I mean, we operated our own business and we have knowledge of growing in retail. That's why I brought it up.
But the growing is gonna happen where?
Hopefully in Lakeville. I'm trying to finalize that.
All right, Charlie, I'll start down at your end.
If I could, before you, I want to circle back, because preliminary to the special permit is the variance.
Right.
And I wanted to lay that out for you folks,
Okay, go
just so
ahead.
you
Why
have
don't
the
you do
whole
that?
picture. But I wanted you to understand the business model and the intent here before we touch the variance. And what's the variance need? The variance need is similar to the one that was granted to the original location, the cultivation and dispensary location, which was that it was located within the distance that is prohibited by the bylaw, or is the suggestion by the bylaw. But given the distance that it would actually take to get to that home, there was a variance granted in relation to it. This is similar in that when this bylaw was passed, and I being careful, as Milford has been, with certain elements of new ideas coming into the community, what was parroted was the adult entertainment bylaw in terms of the distance from homes, daycares, religious uses, residential zones, et cetera. And that was brought over to this, not really being sure what was going to be the impacts of these kinds of things. And so we took a very conservative approach, which was can't be located within 200 feet of those uses, measured from boundary line to boundary line. So when you look at a facility like this in the IB zone that is surrounded either by IB but with residential uses parceled out on them, because that's what happens along Medway Road. We had some homes out there when it was a different kind of an environment. We make it a part of our industrial and commercial land base, and yeah, that grows, but some of the homes remain, even though, and by the way, the Molinaris, who are the neighbors right here, the closest neighbors, also own this and signed the petition authorizing this to go forward, because they're fine with the use being forward here. So they are actually signatories to the petition as owners. Well, they're going to get it anyway. So what uses go in, but they perfectly were fine with it. So what happens is, and I gave you an aerial photo, which isn't the easiest to read in the world, but we did it down in the planning department, Barry Duncan and myself, which gives you distances, corner of building to location, for the closest units. I gave it to you in the package I just handed you. If you look at it, it's got the aerial on it. And I gave you this cover sheet here, which located the distances of the nearest properties. So you understand what the state regulation suggests is that in the absence of a local regulation, from building to building would be a requirement of 500 feet. And that's really limited to educational uses, but the distance they set was 500 feet. They didn't even address the other kinds of uses. And so when you take a look at the map and you look at the former Kids and Company building, which is across the street, which is the nearest potentially educational use. Now, I say potentially because it's currently owned by a corporation that seems to be owned in part by members of a church down in Medway that represents that it's doing some educational use and there's some tutoring a couple of days a week. But we did not find, and I'm not suggesting they're doing anything wrong, because it could be under a waiver because it's such a minor use that they're doing, but we don't see any daycare license issued for that particular location. So I can't actually call it an educational use in the sense that it's a daycare with a licensing. But to be fair and transparent on this, there's some sort of use going on, and they're very limited from anything we can observe. But that's the nearest educational potential facility. It's 822 plus feet away from the building. When we get over to 94 Medway, which is near Messina, that's 960 feet away, Stephen and Maureen Woodworth. And when we get to the Molinaris, it's 744 feet away. And when we get from the distance to the boundary of the cemetery across the street, it's over 600 feet away. Not that there's anybody to bother there, but it's over 600 feet away. And the distance from the building to the edge of pavement out here is 555 feet away. So those are the distances in terms of comparison to what might be viewed reasonably by the state in terms of the 500-foot distance. We're well outside of those. We're shielded by an entire building here, a series of buildings and uses here from view, although the view will look nothing but like another retail use down here, which is going to be even hard to recognize, to be truthful, as different from any other use in this facility. But in terms of distances, it's that far away. So we see absolutely no impact. There is certainly, this is a huge and very unique parcel of land in terms of its shape and its layout here, and surrounded by some unusual uses. So we think there is a hardship that if we can't utilize this, we're really depriving the opportunity to do this at this facility for what we can see is very good reason in terms of distances. We're well far away from these folks. You could have, a residential home that's more than 200 feet away. It wouldn't even be considered impactful, even though it was within a few hundred feet. So if the first residence was down here, 200 feet away, it wouldn't even be an issue for us, and it would only be 200 feet away. Here we're hundreds of feet away from these uses with nothing that should cause any impact to these neighbors. If this was a high school over here, somebody might argue, oh, we've got some risk, which I think would be a false one, but we're talking preschoolers getting some tutoring a couple of times a week inside the building, and that's really it. And so I don't think, or I can suggest to you that there doesn't appear to be any impact that would reason to not grant the variance. It's just not going to cause a hardship to the neighborhood, but it will cause a hardship to the owners. It's not going to derogate in any way from what goes on in this area and on this site. And so I would ask for your consideration in granting the variance, relief from the 200-foot, based upon what's been presented to you. But now, Mr. Chairman, happy to entertain any questions.
Charlie, I'll start with you.
Okay, obviously the big issue is security. I mean, no matter what you're saying, what we're dealing here. And I don't know what questions I can ask with respect to security. So if I ask something that you really don't want to answer because of any public knowledge coming out, but I just have a few. Are there going to be any employees carrying firearms in this facility?
No, there aren't. In fact, there's a memorandum that was issued by the federal government called the Cole Memorandum, and it outlines how the federal government views these facilities and what the requirements are, how they want to see them operated, and one of those explicitly is no firearms on the premises.
Great.
That doesn't mean that there isn't going to be firearms, Charlie. It doesn't mean that there won't be vans transporting. There isn't chase cars, shotguns. Trust me.
Well, that was my next question, yeah, okay.
This is the Coles Plaza, so
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with this whatsoever. I'd prefer it in a isolated area that could be more controlled instead of around children and Papagino's Pizza, and irregardless of the medical need for it, I have some major concerns with it. That's why there's gonna be firearms, I'm sure. transporting, it's gotta be.
Well, all right. The other question I have, since you're the security, given the past history of these facilities, when a breach has occurred, is it during delivery, is it at night, or is it during the day?
Well, anyone that we've been involved in, there have not been breaches. And not to say that there haven't been in the industry across the United States, so I can't speak from personal experience as to how or when that would happen. Because we just haven't had that experience.
Okay.
Ryan?
Are you gonna be applying for a recreational retail license when the applications are available next year?
Right now, this is, the focus is on medical. No, the answer is no.
You don't intend to, or?
I don't intend.
So you're comfortable being in this retail plaza with good visibility and only having card-carrying patients being able to use the facility rather than the general public?
Yeah, and happy if you put a condition on it that it's medical only. Sure.
It's my concern, Mr. Chairman, is that
Ryan? Yeah,
a registered medical marijuana facility under the new recreational law has a huge step up, or a huge advantage in securing recreational licenses. I'm not saying whether it's a good or a bad thing, but I just want to be clear, if you approve this and it gets a registration, it now has
Jump ahead.
it has a trump on local zoning, and it has a huge advantage in the application for a recreational license.
Doesn't prevent them from selling the location subject to that either.
No, but you can't, you can limit it, as Mr. Barton said. You have a right to put a condition in your special permit that says you will not do recreational marijuana, and that would end that, because your local zoning would trump whatever the state, I fully expect, by the way, not only fully expect, I know there's going to be legislation changes being made to that bill that could be out as soon as June. That's absolute, and I would expect that to be one of the things that goes away. That, in my opinion, and it's an opinion, and it's a reasoned opinion based upon my background, that was a bill written by folks who were interested in recreational, for folks who were interested in recreational, and not really written with the public safety and public best interest in mind. It's going to be changed. But as we come down to this singular petition, it is perfectly reasonable for you to put a condition into the permit that says there'll be no recreational use at this location as a condition of the permit. And if anybody wanted to pursue that, they'd have to come back here, or to try and pursue it using the state law would put them in violation of zoning.
I'm just concerned if they don't change it, the way that recreational act is written now, even if we had a condition in the special permit, I'm not sure that that would supersede the act.
I don't see how it wouldn't, because we've done this many, many times, that it's a matter of zoning, and the zoning says you are not allowed. We gave you a special permit that said you can't do this unless you agree to this condition, and if you do it, you're now in violation of zoning. You're in violation of zoning, they come and shut you down.
For the medical facility, but under the recreational act says zoning may not prohibit a recreational facility in the same area where a medical facility is registered. So if we grant the special permit, even with that condition, and it's registered, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to apply for a license for recreational use, regardless of what our zoning says. If they don't change the act. I hope they change the act.
Well, I'm sure they're gonna change the act,
town
but-
with more control, but right now, that's how it reads.
Well, they're going to be able to do, if they're going to continue to do the medical marijuana there at that location, they're going to have to be in compliance with zoning. You're suggesting a scenario by which they're really here to backdoor this and say, okay, well, we'll get the medical, and when the recreational is allowed, we'll just switch it over. I just don't see that scenario playing out here. They're here for medical marijuana. They're here in good faith for a medical marijuana dispensary, not a recreation. They're telling you they have no intention to do that, and they're willing to put the condition into the special permit.
The only thing that Brian's on point about is that a lot of the lobbyists for the alcohol companies, the alcohol companies all ran in, and they're lobbying Congress right now because they want to be the ones to be able to sell the marijuana. So if that goes forward and they're selling marijuana out of a liquor store, he could be right that it could supersede in the state. You don't know how it's going to go because they're a powerful lobbying firm.
I understand that, but you get a special permit with a condition in it. You cannot operate outside the law of the local community in terms of building. Even if they come up later and completely wipe out local zoning, they're gonna completely wipe out local zoning. I just don't, and Massachusetts has not done that in any particular case with this kind of an activity.
It's pretty liberal in Massachusetts. It's pretty liberal here. They do a lot of crazy things in Massachusetts. It's
Been a
pretty
part of
liberal.
it, but I'm suggesting to you that they've not shown the indication in this industry to allow that kind of freewheeling. And I mean, look, at the House of Representatives set up a separate committee to address rewriting this legislation with a charge to get it done before they break for the summer. So, I mean, they're taking this incredibly seriously, and I just can't imagine that it's going to be anything less. But I just think it would be unfair to say to these people, well, you could potentially, maybe, when they're standing before you, saying, our intent is to do medical, put a condition in our permit, we're good with it, we want to stay in the medical field. And you know, Jeff, we've talked about this as to why you feel the medical is the place to be. And if you want to, you know, expound upon that a little bit with the board, please do.
Well, let me get through the board member comments. I think we have some people that may want to say something, so I'll go to you, Mark. Brian, you're all set? You have any other
I'm
questions?
fine for now, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
You got in the security part of it? You got in the security part of it? I know you didn't have any numbers regarding what Brian had asked or Charlie had asked. Have you had any breaches while people are walking out of these facilities with the product?
No.
You're aware of?
No, we do not have any that we're aware of. And typically, the people as they leave, well, not typically, they're required by the Massachusetts CMR to not loiter or stay on the premises. It's on, off. So the amount of time for that, you know, to even potentially occur is quite short, because by law, the operator has to make sure that folks don't congregate outside the facility, that they come in and they leave and they don't congregate in the premises.
A lot of these people obviously are gonna be quite ill and they need this product, which is, I agree with. How many people are allowed to walk in this facility? Say John Doe needs to give his aunt a ride. Is he allowed in the facility also?
There's a separate registration process for caregivers. So for folks who need a caregiver to help them, or to take them there, and the state, the Commonwealth has a card, a patient ID card for the patient, and a process by which they can apply and obtain one, obviously. And they have a similar one for a caregiver, which is a designated caregiver.
Another question, once the people get their product and they go to their car, they're not supposed to loiter, et cetera, there's nothing preventing them from lighting up right in the Kohl's parking lot and doing what they have to do, is there?
Well, that would.
And the reason I bring this up is because you've got kids having birthday parties at Papagino's, which is right next door. I don't like the idea of them possibly seeing smoke pouring out the window.
If I may, there is something preventing them, which is that it is still against state law to drive under the influence. So in the same way that,
Yeah, but they could be the passenger in the car lighting up.
Right.
right, but in the same way that theoretically there's nothing to prevent someone from leaving a liquor store and immediately chugging a handle of vodka, but in this
Absolutely.
case it is,
I agree.
or drinking an
Fred,
entire, yeah.
Personally, I want to commend you, and I know you're probably not done, but I want to commend you that you put together a wonderful team. I think every candidate, your presentation is absolutely top-notch. I think you certainly have done your homework. I'm just going to make a comment. I'd love to have you in this facility, in a secure facility, not in the middle of a shopping center, where children, elderly people are vulnerable. We're transporting firearms and drugs are coming in the back door that can clearly create an issue. And no offense to the consulting person, I'm sure that there's many incident reports through Colorado, through all these, that things do happen. And we're in a major shopping center, and I just feel that this particular use should be in a freestanding building, out of a shopping center, off-site, in a different zone. Would love to have you in this community. I just don't know if this is the right location for it. Someone tried to do it at Fortune Boulevard, and we said no, because it was in a multi-tenanted building where people are coming, going any day. I just think that even though the security aspect of what you're trying to do may be as secure as you think it can, I'm not hearing anything about how transport's being held.
Well, can I?
Transporting back doors and who's, I mean, I get concerns about that.
Chairman, if I can ask the security folks to address this a little bit, I'd like to put a little perspective on this. We're treating this as though it's some sort of a unique situation, different and apart from alcohol and prescription drugs. We put our pharmacies that have, Mr. Chairman, if I may, they're not. You've got a CVS down at a plaza on 140. You got a CVS that's, you got a CVS right down the street from this with uses all around it that have oxycodone, that have opioids in their buildings.
Yeah, but
People walking
they
out
don't
with them.
require the kind of security you're saying that you have to have for a facility like this.
Well-
This is a family retail plaza. It'd be great to have you come in here, but it should be a freestanding.
And how is that different from a CVS, though? And how is it different from a liquor store where
You don't have the kind of security you're gonna have for a place
Well,
like this.
it's not that we have to have it, it's the security they want to have in order to assure people that this industry is going to be safe, and they've got nationwide examples of it being safe, and the security consultant is telling you that it's not happened in terms of breaches, but I can't understand.
I find that hard to believe that there've been zero breaches.
The facilities that he operates, he's either not telling you the truth or he's telling you the truth.
Well, maybe he hasn't had it reported to him, but you're trying to tell me zero. I just
At the facilities that they operate.
find that hard to believe, but
I think the thing is like this. I think, at least from my perspective, I'm supportive of medical marijuana. Okay, because I think that people with cancer and stuff like this, there's been a lot of benefits for it. So I'm supportive of, and we're all learning about medical marijuana. Okay, we're all learning about it, but it is the Wild West, that we're heading into with the whole marijuana thing. And I think it is moving kind of fast. And I think what at least from my point of view, is that if it was a freestanding building and it had a fence around it and it was secure, okay, let's face it, there's a lot of money in the medical marijuana business. That's why everyone wants to get into it. So if it was in a freestanding building in a little bit of a secluded area with a fence, it would be a lot more comfortable for everyone to control. It would be a lot easier for everyone to swallow. Putting it next to Papagino's and advertising in the storefront is maybe a little bit more difficult for everyone to swallow. So I don't think anyone here has a problem with the group that's here. I think it's more about the location of where it's, obviously, this board's been supportive of medical marijuana before. We denied a petition in an office building that had multi-tenants, and we were clear about it, denied that. So I think that, at least from my perspective, whatever, is that if it was in a freestanding building, it had a fence around it, and it was more secure, that way there would be zero questions about how it would be monitored, how it would be controlled, and how everything would be put. So I think what this board's saying is that people are positive towards, and they're welcome to medical marijuana, but what I'm hearing from everyone is the location isn't maybe acceptable to everyone here, was what people are saying. So I don't think there's any need for anyone to get heated or get upset or anything like this, whatever, but that's what the message is, I think, that everyone's saying. I'm just speaking for myself, everyone else can talk, whatever, but that's really the thing that's being said here. I don't have any questions about the security, because it's an expensive product, so everyone's gonna protect it, everyone's, look, at people do break in, people do all that stuff's gonna happen, but, you guys can't say, like, if someone, look, we don't know, nobody knows, what the process is of getting medical marijuana cards. We don't know if, you're gonna go to a doctor and they're gonna give them to everyone, or they're gonna give them to just people with serious things. Nobody knows that, okay? There's a lot of doctors out there, if you give them $50, they'll write prescriptions, they'll give you a medical card. So we don't know you're shaking your head, but we don't know. Listen, this is Massachusetts, not California. We're pretty liberal here. Okay, so, that's the way it is, but we're in the Wild West here, how this is going. So we don't know if you're gonna be able to, someone's gonna be able to go in, buy some marijuana, walk out in the parking lot and give it to someone, or sell it to someone, or pass it on. You can't, you're telling me that won't happen?
Yeah, if I may respond, this program, while it is new, I respect that and understand that it's new to the town, but this has been around since it was voted in 2012. And across the state, there are multiple dispensaries that are located in strip malls, in larger office buildings. If you look at Boston, there's one, not that we operate, but there is one right on Milk Street. It's in a plaza. It's very discreet, very secure. They haven't had any problems there. Somerville is also, that's correct.
Boston's not Milford.
Yeah,
And Somerville is also locating them in central business districts, with the idea being that it's more secure if it's somewhere that's actually visible rather than being kind of put off to the side. In these facilities, to respond to the questions as well of why there is so much security, it really is an abundance of caution. It's not because this is particularly dangerous. It's because the state requires it, because it is new.
and you might be right in everything you're saying, but it's really new, and this is the Wild West, so everybody's learning. Everybody's learning.
If I may, I think this is the best group I think you guys are very professional. I think I would more than welcome this group in the town of Milford for this purpose. But I too would like to see it somewhere else in Milford, Massachusetts, not next to Papagino's. That's my only concern as far as your credentials and what I've been reading. Superior, it's perfect.
I'd like to open it up. Could you stand up and tell me your name, please?
My name is Pat Sarasolo.
Come on up. I don't have a microphone. If we can give you a microphone, please. Just pull it out.
I am one of the living neighbors. I don't live in the cemetery yet.
It's good news.
I live at 2 Messina Street. Just to give you a little background, I'm a 34-year veteran of policing, military police, and I was a police detective for 19 years, also involved in drug investigations. My concern is basically the same as the board's. What happens when the new recreational marijuana comes into effect? I've seen in my career as a police officer, people going in and at liquor stores buying booze and transferring on the outside. I am in a butter. The daycare center, the former daycare center, is being run by a group of people teaching math. It's usually during the after-school hours. It's a math school. There are kids there. I am not in favor at that location, just to back up what the board has said, because of the location itself. The Papagino's, the kids across the street, there's an Applebee's, you're gonna have people, yeah, the law is the law, but if there was self-compliance to the law, that, you're not supposed to consume marijuana after you purchase it, then you would need police officers out there policing. So you're gonna have issues. There's gonna be issues in the parking lots. And my last 11 years, I managed a executive security at a major corporation in Boston. And every security level, there's always a breachable point, no matter what you set up. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. I don't know.
Anyone else in the audience?
Is there anybody else that wants to speak in the audience? Anybody else on the board? John?
When we talk about security, it's a little vague to me at this particular point that if I could have a plan of the building, something that you can show us what the building will look like completely finished, and then apply the security to the finished building. Right now, you can say, well, we have these gentlemen from the security company who are experts in this field. But in my own mind, I can't picture exactly what the security of this building will be. I mean, can you tell me some of that, to relate that to me?
Sure, there are three major components of the security in each of these, and no matter how you secure it, they're access controls, obviously, controlling how people open doors and get in and out. There's intrusion detection, which is 24 hours a day, so even if the facility's closed, finding out if there's been intrusion. And then the third is video surveillance, which surveils all the areas and records all the video. So those are the three major components of what the security system would look like. In practice, what that means is proximity card readers on the doors moving around inside the facility, so you swipe a card, tracks anyone's movement so they know who's been where, when they're going there, limits access. There's the intrusion detection, which is motion sensing and so on in the prohibited or restricted areas. And then video surveillance, where it's all being recorded. And those are the building blocks of the system. each one's customized to the facility based on, one, us conducting a risk assessment, working with local law enforcement to say, what are the risks, how do we want to mitigate them? Because as the gentleman pointed out, no facility's 100% risk-free, and I think anyone that would tell you that a CVS, a McDonald's, or anything else is risk-free would be either misinformed or misinforming you, right? So you can't eliminate all the risks. So that's why we conduct a risk assessment to find out what the specific risks are, how they apply to that facility, and how to mitigate them. From that, we develop the security plan that I mentioned, which is how to operate it. And then we take those two products and synthesize those into this security system design that you're asking about. So it's an iterative process, it's a collaborative one. And part of the reason you don't see it is because it takes some time to produce, and that's what occurs in the building and the planning phase for one of these. But in part of the beauty of that, we would advocate, is because it is collaborative and it takes into account the specific requirements for each site, as opposed to kind of an off-the-shelf plan that says, here you go, put a few cameras here, lock the door, you're good. So that's why it's not there. That's why it takes time. That's why we've already met with the chief. And in any situation, pending a favorable outcome of moving forward with these projects, we work hand in hand with police and fire to produce that. So, but those are the major components of it, how it's built up.
John, you have a question?
The only question I have is, how many people per day do you feel would enter this facility?
So the modeling that we've done is, it builds, over the first couple of years, but starting somewhere around 70 a day, and by the third year going to about 100 to 110 a day.
Thank you.
And that modeling is based on,
It's based on a few factors. One is the population within what we did is a 30-minute drive time. And so, okay, this is the population within 30 minutes. From that, we took and said 1.5% of that is going to be the patients, people that could be patient holders, patient card holders. And then take into consideration what other dispensaries are within that 30-minute drive time. And you weigh all those together, and that then comes down to telling us the number of patients a day.
so besides the patient's product and the actual cash, there's still gonna be transport coming in and out of there almost on every other day process.
There would be transport coming from the cultivation center. John could talk about how the process would work, but there's a back door. You bring it into the back door, goes into a secure area, so that gets locked from the doors, and from there, then it goes into an internal vault. And that internal vault then holds the product, and from there, it goes into the inventory room where the patient consultants would get and bring it to the patients.
Mr. Chairman, I also would like to allow John an opportunity to discuss the comment about whether there would be weapons transporting and accompanying the delivery of the marijuana and/or the money, and perhaps you can address that.
Just to clarify, the attorney was asking about it, just, in that comment, per the Cole memo that I mentioned earlier, the transportation side of moving that product to the RMD that Jeff's talking about would also be governed where there is not a firearm permitted or allowed. And it wouldn't be an operation that we would be associated with, because that is the guidance of the federal government. And it's also one that, from a pragmatic security aspect, that we agree with, because the presence of firearms is often is a cause for more concern. So in practice, in other locations, there aren't firearms part of the transportation or on site. In the only place
You're telling me that every location does not?
they would be, if anyone in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is operating an RMD under the guidelines of the state and of the federal government's Cole memo, and they have a firearm in their presence, they're in violation of that. So do I know, is anyone doing that? I don't know, but they shouldn't be. and they're putting themselves at risk if they are. So, I mean, that's just
I
a
don't
regulation.
want to beat up the point.
Well, it's just that we want to make sure that whatever decision you make is made on an understanding of the facts. And in terms of money movement, it would be done much in the way money is moved from the bank that's right there by secure people.
And an added point, this facility is banked. We do have a banking relationship with accept cards. And so it's, you hear about these cash stories from across the country. We're a banked operation.
So
And I wish the chief could have been here, because my conversations with him would indicate he would prefer a retail location rather than an isolated location. But, he's not here, I can't speak for him, and it might be something that you want to discuss with the chief at some point in time in terms of security.
Well, what's the pleasure of the board?
You gotta close the hearing.
Well, we're gonna have to close the hearing, so, you have your last word?
Well, I would ask you to consider all that we've talked about in terms of separation of operation from the uses around it, the security of the location, the consistency of the location with other locations across the country and across the Commonwealth in retail locations, the comparison to pharmacies which are located in malls and strip malls and are carrying a much more potent drug, a much more sought-after drug for people who are interested in breaching facilities and getting at those facilities, and we don't have those problems with it, such that while I can recognize the visceral reaction to the concept of being around other uses, I think we're isolating this use. And I respect what Mr. Pine said relative to the Wild West sort of mentality, but this has been in place in other locations. We're bringing it here to Milford under some very controlled and regulated conditions. And I think that, in fairness, if we take the sort of visceral reaction, this is going to be next to a facility that has children that serves liquor, or that liquor is sold nearby, or that has a pharmacy less than a mile away, where things can happen. That we can't control the entire environment, but we're treating this product as though it's the most harmful product that can be involved in a situation when I would suggest to you the opioids are much more harmful and located in facilities much like what these folks are looking to operate in. And that, the location is being really unfairly treated by suggesting that somehow it being in a retail location, when pharmacies could be, when liquor stores could be, when restaurants serving liquor to people can be, it just, to me, seems unfair, and I would ask you to please consider that carefully in your deliberations and seek a favor.
And I'd just like to add one thing, and that's just, it's what you had said, the attorney.
I'm giving you some leniency before I close the hearing, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, I should have asked. What we're talking about is medical, and it seems like a lot of the concerns are more focused around somebody getting product, going to their car, and smoking a joint. And that's what I'm hearing. And
Not necessarily it, so don't assume what we.
Okay, and I'm saying that's what.
Don't assume that at all.
Okay, it's what I'm sorry, that's what I heard. There's a comments, a couple
That's one
comments that I
comment.
heard. So, from a medical standpoint, by and large, the delivery isn't necessarily even rolled up cigarettes. Yes, there's that, there's the vape pens, but more and more often, it's the tinctures, it's lotions, it's specific medicine that's focused on specific maladies. And so these people are coming, they're getting their product, and it's by law a limited amount that they can take, and they're going home. They're not getting it to recreational party, or they're getting in their car and leaving, not getting in the car and exposing patrons of Papagino's or, Panera Bread or something of that nature to this. They have an illness, It's a medicine that works with little side effects, and I could go on, and I know you don't want me to, so I won't, of what it does and the benefit it provides. What I can tell you is, I looked all around Milford. There, but with the setbacks and standalone buildings, you know, this is what I found. And I sat down and talked with the landlord, and we went through it and talked about what we're doing, and again, the focus is on medicine. And I think what we found, and he is supportive of that, because you know what, we can help people with this. And I think we do it in a very professional way, so that it's to help people get better. And I don't think we're gonna expose it to children or be a negative environment for the town of Milford. I just don't.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, any chance for any more comment, or you want to?
Well, I haven't closed it, so.
Yeah, I was just, obviously, the big question here is security, and if you read what we got just recently is what the board should do. I think that, I don't think, I'm just pushing this out. Our chief security person is the chief of police. It would be really great to have his input to us before we make any final decisions. Because he might come back and say, well, standalone, that's not what I would do, guys. So that's just a suggestion. I mean, I think we have a right to continue it and get the chief of
Yeah,
police.
if they want- if
But
their
that's just a
prerogative.
suggestion.
That's their prerogative. Yeah. They want to continue.
Charlie's got a very good idea there.
I just feel, like I said before, it's at a family plaza. Personally, I'd like to see it as a standalone. We had another person come before us on Fortune Boulevard, and they had it in a building. I remember going in the building and thinking, how are you gonna secure that? So, I'm all for the marijuana. I think it's great. I think it's gonna help a lot of people, but I just don't think it belongs in that plaza.
Okay, so I guess we'll close the hearing. Your last word for closing, all set? You're good? Okay, hearing is closed. With that, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny it.
We have a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second it?
Yep.
Motion to deny, second. All those in favor? You're 3 in favor? What did you do?
Deny.
Denied, okay. So 4 to 1. Okay, so it's denied.
Three in favor?
No,
I'm sorry.
four on the
in favor-
denial.
4 in favor of denial and 1
Okay.
abstained, opposed. Okay.
I really hope you guys end up somewhere in town. I think you're a
Anything
very
else?
professional group.
There's no places.
Have a motion to...
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor, motion to adjourn? Second, Gaga, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone.